Hello again and welcome back here to my garden for some more wildlife watching. Now I know, as you've seen in the other videos, my garden's not particularly a big space, but I'm sure you'll agree I've managed to pack in loads of wildlife into just this tiny space. Mind you, having said that, I think I might actually be running out of new things to show you. And to be honest, seeing new things is something I've been thinking about really right since the start of the lockdown. Because normally I do like to actually see wildlife in my garden, and I sort of like to go down to my local area and watch it there, down to places like Marbury, Newman's, and you can still sort of do that to some extent now. But at other times I like to travel a little bit further when I can, maybe go to the coast or up on the moors, sort of explore different habitats there and see some different types of wildlife. Obviously that's something you can't do at the moment. So I was a little bit worried about maybe getting a bit fed up of going to the same place day after day, because I know if I do just explore the area around here, I'm very, very unlikely to see a bird or a butterfly or a dragonfly or a moth that I haven't seen before. It might get a little bit boring after a while. So that got me to thinking a little bit, and then I thought, actually, there's one area of the natural world that I've just missed out completely from that list, and that is flowers and plants. And of course, those of you who in science have been learning about food chains will know that none of those other things I mentioned could be here if it wasn't for plants and flowers. So I thought, well, maybe this is a really good time to fill a big hole in my knowledge, because I know I've shown you here, haven't I, some of the wildflowers in my garden, and I do know a few of them, but I know there's loads more that I don't know the names of at all. And while I do like to go out and enjoy looking at wildlife, I do get a lot of satisfaction from being able to tell what it is and what it's called. I don't know, I think us humans, we like to name things, don't we? So with that in mind, I thought, right, I think I need to start learning more about wildflowers. So a few weeks ago, I went online and ordered myself a new book all about how to tell the different wildflowers. And I've got it with me now, and here it is. So when my book finally came, I opened it up and looked at this lovely new front cover, and I got that really nice feeling you get when you get a new book and you see the front, you just want to dive inside and see what's in there. And I get that with new storybooks. I'm sure a lot of you do as well, when you get a new story and you want to start reading it right away. Well, I have to say, I think I do like those, but there's something about these sort of books that I get really excited about. Ones that tell you how to identify things. Because I know in there is this whole world to explore when I go out and about. So my book came, and I started to look inside, and then I'm afraid my enthusiasm went down a little bit, because as I flicked through, I realised there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of wildflowers, and lots of them look exactly the same. But then, do you know what? I just thought to myself, just remember back to when you first started learning about birds, which I don't need a book to identify most of the birds that I see now. But when I think back to the time when I started learning, I used to go outside just in my local area, and if I came across a bird that I didn't recognise, I used to have a look at it and remember what it looked like, maybe sometimes even draw what it looked like as well, so I didn't forget. And then when I got back home, I'd look it up and identify it. And then the next time I went out, and the next time after that, I'd see the same bird again and remember what it was, and I didn't need to look it up. But actually, it's surprising how quickly you can learn to identify them if you do that. So maybe I could do the same thing with wildflowers. So I think we're ready now to go and find some wildflowers. But I'm going to leave my book here for now, and before we head out I'm going to make sure I've got my camera in case we come across a flower that I don't recognise, which is highly likely I think. Or you could actually use your phone as well to photograph anything, and then we can check in the book when we come back. So I think it's time now that we headed out onto the streets where I live on our very own wildflower safari. Let's go. So I've come out here onto our street, which you can see are mostly terraced houses here. And actually these were built about 100 years ago, these houses, for the workers actually that work down here at ICI. And it doesn't really seem like the sort of place that you're going to find many wildflowers, does it? But I reckon if we look hard enough we'll be able to find some. So let's just head down this way. Right, so I've just stopped here now because this house here hasn't had anyone living in it for a while, and it looks a little bit of a mess I suppose. However, it's meant that down here nobody's actually been clearing away what I would have called weeds in the past, but I think I'm now referring to as wildflowers. There are a few different things down here. In fact, look, I can see this, I recognise this flower, it's called a Herb Robert. It's actually growing out the windowsill. Oh, now, here's another one. Now, this is a really tricky one. I do know when I've looked at my book, this is one of the hawkweeds or hawkbeards, and I know that they're really difficult to identify. So I think we might just have to appreciate how nice that one looks, because I think you've got to be much more of an expert to be able to tell those. Oh, that's good. Let's go and have a look down here. Right, well I'm in, well, the end of our street now, but it used to be a playground down here at one time, and actually just down there that's where there used to be the old Winnington School, but it's before they built the new one. This is all houses now, and I think you might recognise here, looks a little bit like our school field, because down here I can see some flowers that we all recognise. There's a dandelion. Now I didn't know till I bought this book that actually we call that a dandelion, but I found out there are 250 different types of dandelions, and you have to be a real expert to tell those apart. So I think dandelion will do for now. And of course we recognise daisies. Now I didn't even realise that we get the name daisy from two words, day's eye, which meant that the eye that opens in the daytime. In other words, these flowers only open in the day, and at night they close. Well, that's okay, but it's not. This isn't the sort of area I'm really interested in. What I'm more interested in are these bits at the side here, where the mowers haven't reached. I mean, this is much more interesting. In fact, I've noticed over here there's something that the mowers didn't touch. Look at this. Now here we have a lovely little flower, which is Field Forget-Me-Not. So I found another little patch at the edge of this street here, and I've come across a creeping buttercup here. Quite nice to see it, how it grows when it doesn't get cut. Quite a nice looking plant really, isn't it? Let's go this way. Oh, let's have a look at this. Right. Now then, I don't really recognise what this one is, so maybe I should look a bit more closely at it. This could be one we could identify when we got back. It doesn't look that tall, does it? It has need to look really carefully at certain things. Look, how many petals does it have? Maybe look at the shape of the leaves as well. So it does look to have a very spiky looking leaves. Right, and I think the next thing I need to do is just take a photograph so we can check that when we get back. 'Cause I might have seen that before, I think, but I've never really noticed it, so this could be one. You could identify. Let's get a close-up of the flowers there. Right, good. I think that's one look at later, isn't it? Right, let's try this way then. So I've just stopped by this old wall, and because most of the walls around here are about 100 years old, they've got all sorts of cracks and broken parts to them, which wildflowers can take hold. Look up here, there's some more Herb Robert growing right at the top. Is a plant called smooth sow thistle. And I've just noticed there, down on the floor, is a new one we haven't seen yet. Look, this little plant is called Herb Bennett, and that normally grows in woodlands. It's found a shady spot just here, isn't it? The bottom of this wall. So I've just stopped here at this bit, not for this nicely cut area, but for this quite messy looking area behind this building here. Now, a lot of people I think would call this waste ground or a brownfield site and think it was something that we have to make look nicer, but just look here at how many wildflowers are growing here. So I'm going to have a closer look. Yeah, so have a look down here. That I can see more field forget-me-not in front of me. Down here's more Herb Robert and Herb Bennett. Actually all sorts of stuff. Some flowers haven't come out yet. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do. Maybe I need to come back and have a look another time. Oh, and actually look, I think over here there might be something else. So here, they're actually flowers, look. And that's called ribwort plantain. Stopped in this little shady bit again, and I can see a little bit of garlic mustard here, which is a woodland plant again. It seems to be doing well here in this little shady part, isn't it? Oh, yeah, look. Just notice here in all this bramble, and there's a nettle in here, but underneath, if you come down here, you might just be able to see a lovely little flower there. It's called common vetch. There's a really nice shaped leaf, I think. That's actually, you might be able to see on the end there, it has some tendrils on the edge of the leaf. And it's actually related to the pea family that we might grow to eat. Probably that, isn't it? Well, I think we've had a really good little walk there, haven't we? Found some fantastic plants. So I'm going to head off back now, make a note of the things I've seen, and see if I can figure out what that mystery flower was that we saw earlier. So let's head back and see you later. Right, well, I'm back here now at home, and I've got all the things I need with me. I've got my book, I've got the camera here, all important brew, and I've been having a look through to see if I can work out what that yellow flower was that we couldn't identify. So I've just been looking here on the picture I took on my camera, and I've got the flower book here. It's taken me a while, but I think I might have found out which one it is. So I'm just going to read, you took the picture here, and then I'm just going to read what it says. So it looks really similar to the one we saw with the yellow flowers, and the leaves look to be the right sort of shape as well. So it looks like it's called Oxford ragwort. So I'm just going to read now see what it says in the description. So I can see them has a little map here, and that definitely looks like it occurs where we are. It says it's a well-branched, short, medium perennial. Yeah, it was not too tall, was it? It has yellow flowers. And importantly, it says it comes out from April onwards, so it's the right time. Definitely got the right sort of shaped leaves, and it says it's also well established on bare or waste ground. Well, that's exactly where we found it. And I can see one of the most important things, I think, when you're identifying anything, it says that it's quite common. And sometimes I think when you first start to learn things, you can sort of get mixed up by sort of picking something that might be a bit rare rather than going for the common one first. I always check to see, is it the commonest of the things? And I think we might have got that right. So that's a new flower for me, even though I've probably seen it a few times. I've never really noticed it before. So Oxford ragwort, a new flower. That's pretty good. Well, just shows you, doesn't it, that there's all sorts of things you can see. All those wild flowers just on your doorstep.